So I learned a hard lesson in the last install of our Wallas oven in our Glendale titanium, and I'm not going to make the same mistake here. After determining where we wanted the oven at, I carefully laid out with a square some guidelines here to install the brackets. Now these brackets are a very nice quality of stainless steel, and they have held up over the years that we've had them in our old RV. Now when we're installing this, what I did is carefully laid it out. Like I said, you want to make sure everything's square, but I put these screws here temporarily to match up with the slot here that the front of the oven goes in. This is the part where the oven bolts to and tightens down. And that way I can slide that bracket in there so I know that they're in the same position and hold it, and then find my square. After that, you simply bolt it in. Then we'll simply remove these screws that we put in temporarily. Now we've ran the exhaust tubing through the deck out the side of the RV. Now every install is going to be a little different. We're not going to go into how to route the exhaust line. I already wired in the plug, the electrical for the Wallas oven, and it's very important that this goes directly to the batteries with an inline fuse. You do not want to go to a fuse panel and then to this. Reason being is there's a cool down mode to the oven, and if you were to blow the main fuse in a fuse panel, you would cut power to the oven, which could lead to damage. So we just want to eliminate as many potential factors for loss of power with this system. So directly to the batteries, inline fuse, that's already wired up. With all that said, all we have to do is put the hose clamp on there. We're going to put the oven into place. Those brackets are already there. And we're going to show you a big tip that I wish I did in the titanium fifth wheel that we had this installed in. We're going to do it here in the Sundance, but I learned my lesson on the last one. And the biggest mistake I made on the last time we installed it, or the first time we installed this, was I didn't have or leave enough fuel line to connect to the oven while it was outside the cabinet, making it very difficult to connect inside. So I highly recommend having enough fuel line where you can connect it easily outside of the cabinet, because you do have to remove this for service. I am also going to add a little strain relief here that I added before for the fuel line, because we will be moving it in and out. I don't want to put pressure on this fuel pump right here. Now don't be afraid to cinch these fuel lines down. We don't want them leaking, and they're just a flare fitting. There we go. I wish I would have done this years ago. Don't pinch the fuel line, and then you gotta line it up with those brackets underneath. It's a little cumbersome, but once it goes in, once it's in the brackets and lined up, you tighten these two fasteners on the front of the oven. Open and wrench, and a little bit of patience.